Hey everybody, welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture. I have with me Chris, who is formerly known as Burchill, the working man, because WWE just trademarked that, which is unfortunate. So how are you? Because it's been 4 years.
It has been 4 years. The last time we spoke, I was on my way on holiday. And, we've kept in touch since then, being obviously comic book geeks and Funko Pop admirers and stuff like that. But apart from that, and being notified by the WWE that I can no longer use the gimmick name and the moniker, then it's all good.
So let's talk about that, because this is interesting for me. Because how are you even notified? Because that's so odd. Like, if I got a message from WWE, first off, if it was like a letter and they sent it to me personally, I would be hanging it up.
I think for me, I know quite a lot of guys in WWE, and it was kind of a stop now kind of thing before you get a cease and desist, because then it becomes a lawsuit, and that's the last thing I want. But it was kind of told to me on the down low kind of thing that don't use it.
And let's talk a little bit about that, because you're obviously in the UK, you wrestle all throughout Europe, and one of the things is that WWE in the last 4 years has been growing massively in the UK and in Europe. So what is that like? Because you wrestled a lot of guys who are now in NXT UK and even in America now to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, I've wrestled guys that are now on the main roster. Guys like Walter, Pete Dunne, to name but a few, Tyler Bate. Guys that you will see week in, week out on NXT UK. The talent pool is kind of saturated at the moment, based on the fact that the WWE wants kind of the best talent in their company, which then kind of, dare I say it, shits all over the companies that have kind of made these guys in the first place. So, companies like Progress now are not as massive as what they used to be, because 90% of their talent pool is now with either WWE or AEW. And, there's guys that have gone to New Japan and All Japan. And, it's kind of like the whole talent pool have kind of gone, and it's now time for a new wave of guys and girls to obviously hit the UK scene.
So what is that like? Because I don't like this war between AEW and WWE, and it is a war. And anybody who says it's not is not living in reality, because clearly 3 years ago we didn't have 5-year contracts being offered in both companies. And I feel that a lot of talent gets suppressed on both the rosters.
I mean, yeah, you're right. It is a war, because obviously they're competing on a Wednesday night. Obviously, AEW have announced that they've got another 4-year deal with TNT, which then puts them to do 2 shows a week. Obviously, they've got AEW Dark as well. I don't see it as big of a war as the one against WCW. That was far more competitive than a Wednesday night. If you look at it in terms of, you have Raw, SmackDown, NXT. NXT is kind of your third tier of the WWE. And AEW, they've only got one show, which is Dynamite. So that's their main show competing with WWE's third show. And it's close. It's, between 800 and 1,000, going down to 700 and 1,000. But then, you look at it where if you've got 740,000 people watching WWE, that's 740,000 people not watching AEW. It's not a war just yet, because for me the rosters aren't good enough from the AEW side just yet.
I mean, I view it more as a war, not in even viewing, but more in a contract war, gathering talent. I mean, just today, the Revival just got released from their contract, and that's a big news that just dropped. And they're going to be getting to AEW, and or supposedly, unless WWE offers them some serious money and re-signs them, but I highly doubt it at this point. And
I can't see him. Can't see him. There's no point in announcing that they're leaving to then go and re-sign. There's no need. The Revival are just probably the best original tag team that the WWE had, in my opinion. And they've lost a massive team. You know, the tag division is pretty bad at the moment. And, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, like the Street Profits are good and stuff, but I mean, like, we'll talk about WrestleMania at some point, but to have Austin Theory and Angel Garza as the main contenders to the Raw tag title matches at Mania, it says it all about the tag division.
Yeah, that was not a great match. I thought the best person in that match was Zelina Vega. Out of all five, I'm not even kidding. From an attractive position, she was great, but also the way that she was commanding, and she was the best out of everybody in that match. And
Yeah.
Bianca Belair, I can't even speak, was also great. Everybody knows what I'm talking about.
So we'll catch on to Mania later on. Don't worry about that. But yeah, it's a shame that the Revival have left WWE. But obviously, as an indie fan and an indie wrestler, you never know. You never know when they're going to turn up.
Yeah, but we all have an idea, you know. There's that famous meme of Cody putting out his ear and then it zooms in. That's been popping up on Twitter because of this.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, what's saying that they might not try it in New Japan for a few months. Get a tour.
That would be something special in its own right. That would be great. The amount of dream matches that could come out of that for like 5 months would be unbelievable.
Well, I'm going to say you obviously Suzuki Gun, Minoru Suzuki, and then Zack Sabre Jr. You know, you got a chance to have them against. I mean, they probably won't go as the Revival. They'll just probably go as Dash and Dawson. Because obviously, again, we go back to the trademark issue. That'll be trademarked. But, you know, we'll have to see what happens.
But you know what it is? I'm not concerned about that. Because if you look at what happened with Daniels and Kazarian, you know, they were bad influences. Then they became the Addiction and all that stuff. As you got trademarked. And then they became SCU with Scorpio Sky. And just even though it was a loss of money and it was a short loss of money because they lost that name, they got better names and they got better positions. And everybody knew who they were. And so I feel like with the Revival, everybody knows it's the Revival and they can call themselves whatever they want. And I think that WWE is going to trademark it for the next 2-3 years. But the second trademark is up. I mean, look at Sonic. It is a great example of that.
Well, like you say, you know, everyone knows who Kazarian and Daniels are. Allow me to tell you a quick story. And I'm not going to try and bury them as best I can, but not in a bad way. They were due over here many years ago against Project Ego, which is Martin Kirby and the late Chris Travis. And I think it was Southside at the time, which is now obviously, unfortunately, closed down. They were supposed to go up against Bad Influence, which was obviously Kazarian and Daniels. And Daniels and Kazarian politicked it to the point where they demanded to win the match because they didn't think they'd sell enough merch. And everyone was saying, like, we know who you are. You'll sell out. You'll sell all your 8x10s, you'll sell all your T-shirts. It doesn't matter about whether you win or lose. Seeing you in the flesh is amazing. But, that was the story from back in the day that I heard, the good old politics side of things.
Oh, I'm not going to say anything about Chris Daniels or Kazarian. There's a really cool piece hanging up above me, signed by the Young Bucks and Daniels and Kazarian. So, really cool.
I think that's great.
Really, really amazing thing. There was only like 25 of them in the world. It's probably more than I paid for it, but I'm not going to show it because somebody's going to rob my house once they see it. But you brought up a really good point about the UK, and obviously, you know, we're having this conversation for the reason that COVID-19 is happening, and unfortunately, every wrestling promotion, including the big boys, WWE, AEW, New Japan, has been hit, and then the indies have been decimated. So what is the UK scene like? Because you're in the UK and you're in Europe, and we can expand it to Europe as well right now.
Basically, the wrestling scene is shut down completely. There's a lot of GoFundMe pages up in the UK. Mine was up for my wrestling academy, and numerous creditable training schools, not just like your Tim Pot training school where you and your mates get to wrestle, but I mean proper creditable training schools that have produced great talent, such as House of Pain, PCW. You know what I mean? Real big schools are now having to look at the GoFundMe side of things to stay in business, because if not, and we stay in lockdown for any longer, it will be the end of it. And obviously there's no shows, there's no in-house shows. WWE have been very fortunate to be able to produce regular content under these circumstances, whereas in Britain you can't do it.
So even to talk about that, because I think there's two sides to this. So there's the actual producing of the shows and taping them and projecting them out there, but then there's also the problem, and obviously if things are closed, we can't do that. And I don't know, a bunch of Freelance, which is an American company based in Chicago, they did a bunch of pre-tapes, and a lot of companies have done pre-tapes, but even then they're starting to run out of content, and they also did fanless shows, but even that's now been shut down. And then there's the other side that I'm even more curious about, is if you can't train wrestlers, how is that going to affect the wrestling industry? Because now if you can't train anybody for 3 months, that delays a bunch of new talent coming in for 3 months, probably even more.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, the majority of the trainees that go to creditable academies and schools will know what to do during this lockdown. Like, one of my guys, Jack Knudsen, he's been sending me videos of all his warm-ups. He's got some mats at home, so he's been doing like head flips and just learning little things, staying as kind of on the ball as he can. It's a lot harder for a lot of us because obviously we're used to the gym. There is no gyms open, so we've had to buy in our own equipment. I've got like battle ropes and free weights and kettlebells and stuff like that to keep me going. But it's really hard for some of the guys who don't have that kind of money to then stay in shape and keep going with the view of coming back to training properly.
And then even people are training, and from my understanding, a lot of schools have a promotion attached to them, and a lot of those trainees are also learning the idea of putting together a ring, and that's an important skill to learn as a concept of paying your dues, and also even just watching a show. And I'm a big believer that watching something is a way to learn it.
Absolutely.
And what is that even just on a morale level like for that, is taking that component out of it, and really the idea of paying your dues, which is sort of an old school wrestling way of doing things.
It was the way I was brought up with Sticks. It was my trainer. It was a case of, you get there early, you put the ring up. Without the ring, you've got no stage to perform on. Sometimes you see guys that have been on the scene maybe 5 minutes, and they think that they've already paid their dues and they don't have to pay, put up the ring. I still do it after 12, 13 years. I've seen guys like Ligero, who is one of the most seasoned guys in the UK, and I see, when we've done camps, he's still putting ring up. It kind of it shows the ethos in some schools that people think that paying your dues is kind of an old school thing now, and it doesn't really matter. Whereas for my guys, it's the main thing. Paying your dues before you get yourself established, and it's the work rate as well, because some guys, you'll see them, they'll wait till all the heavy lifting has been done, and then they'll come and grab a couple of little things and, oh yeah, I'll help there, Chris, no worries. And I'm like, no, don't. Get in that van, get out the heavy stuff, and let's get it up. Instead of just sitting there and talking, kind of thing. But.
And then there's another component, because obviously if you're not having money coming in, you're not performing, there's the mental health aspect of all of this, because I've been in the US and I'm starting to go stir crazy, and I'm not a wrestler, I'm not a performer, but what is that like, not being able to perform? Because that's what wrestlers do, and to the crowd.
Mental health has a massive impact on wrestling in general. Um, I'm not gonna name names, but there's a lot of mainstay guys that do have anxiety, depression, who are on medication to control those kind of things. Obviously, it's hard for me to explain because I'm kind of fortunate to not suffer from anything. But I do have a lot of people I know, friends, trainees that do suffer from mental health, and it's wrestling is their way out. It's their way of being themselves, socializing, networking. And when they can't do that, it's a real struggle, And then obviously there's the dare I say it, the suicide route, which can be apparent in these times, which is sad.
Yeah, and now I want to change it because we're going to table that. I'm going to come back to that to talk a little bit about how people can support. But I do want to talk about something more positive that is directly affected by this, and that is WrestleMania. And I want your take on it because I have a thought on it, but I don't want to tell people my thought unless they heard my Anthony Green interview that's up on YouTube at Pop Anime Comics. But I'm curious what your thoughts on WrestleMania over the 2 nights and how WWE has been executing, because they're the big guy and they're the main guy.
I'm going to say it was amazing. And the reason why I say that is, under the circumstances, how great of a job did everyone on that roster do to still perform, to still entertain, to still give us wrestling content in this day and age, in this situation that we find ourselves with COVID-19. Should it have been over 2 nights? I don't know. It was a lot. It's 6-7 hours of wrestling plus the pre-show, etc. But I'm not going to slate anybody who was on that card because they've all put themselves in that position when they full well know that they could catch the virus and it would be, detrimental to their family. So, everyone was fantastic. There's a lot of slagging off in social media. Guys I know from the English or the European scene, guys like Tommy End, Drew McIntyre, Rhea Ripley. It was their dream to perform at WrestleMania, and they got to do that.
Yeah. So my thoughts on it were the following: is that there were some matches that were bad, like the tag team match, which we're going to talk about in a minute with Austin Theory and Angel Garza and Street Profits. That match was a nightmare. But I thought that the Elias Baron Corbin match was a great match, but failed because Baron Corbin is a lightning rod with the heel. And the guy knows how to draw heat better than anybody else. And he's been riding this heat all the way since he beat Kurt Angle a year ago. Yeah. And the guy is the biggest heel and the greatest heel in WWE right now. AEW has MJF, WWE has Baron Corbin.
I agree with you on those.
And so those are the 2 guys that are the top heels, whether they're put in top heels positions or not. But I loved 3 matches on the card. I thought the Edge vs. Orton match was brilliant, using the performance the way it did. I thought that kind of putting Edge in the noose was not the best idea with the Chris Benoit stuff that just came out. I don't think that was WWE's finest moment. I don't think they thought that one through.
They never do.
that was a really bad position. That was probably the worst position, and it was only 30 seconds. But it's a bad position for WWE. Then I loved the Undertaker match, the Boneyard match.
Yeah.
And I thought American Badass Undertaker was great, and then the Firefly Funhouse match, or promo as it was. That wasn't a match. That was a promo. So I'm curious about those 3 matches.
Okay. Right, where do we start? Let's start with the Funhouse. that was different because it was more like a movie. It was a long-winded promo with a little bit of like wrestling, nothing more. Um, it was nice to see them do something different with that because obviously we've seen John Cena versus Bray Wyatt before. You know, all we're going to do is see Cena against Bray Wyatt again. They did take down a pre-interview before the WrestleMania with John Cena because he referred to him as a lazy Husky Harris, and the WWE didn't want the fans to realise that was him, so they took down that interview. I enjoyed it. You know, it was something different. I know a lot of people didn't, but then it's, you know, wrestling is subjective. The Boneyard match was phenomenal. Again, it was more like a movie, you know, like a kind of Cannes Film Festival 15-minute thing. Yeah, again, the American Badass, you know, that was great. I don't think they needed Gallows and Anderson there. I think they were just kind of thrown in there. They didn't do anything really for me. It should have just been AJ. But I thought, you know, both matches were really, really good. Third one, you say Orton and Edge. Good match. Probably for me went on a little too long. It was very drawn out. It was kind of like they knew that they had maybe, you know, 15, 20, and they went further, and it was like, okay, what more can you do? Let's, you know, kind of wrap it up, go home. But all three matches were completely different and really fun.
Yeah, I agree that the Orton and Edge match went 10 minutes too long. I think that if they went for 30 minutes, it would have made complete sense because you have a last man standing match. You need it to go for 30 minutes. It needs to be 30 minutes, but not like 45 is what it really felt like. You know, 30, 35 would have been the sweet spot because it would have been enough of a fight, but and enough of a war, but it wouldn't have been overkill. And also, I was disappointed that Beth Phoenix wasn't involved in the match, which I thought would have been a nice touch.
Yeah, but then did it need it? You know?
It would have been great if his kids were in the match too. Personally, I think it would have just added injury to insult. But I get that that might have crossed the line.
But then you've got the same story with Edge, Beth, and Orton as you have with AJ, Michelle McCall, and The Undertaker. So
fair enough.
It's, you know, psychology. Did the Edge Orton match need Beth Phoenix? For me, not really. Yeah, I understand the point. You know, it would have been great to have her involved, but realistically, that would have been like if Michelle McCall had got involved with the Boneyard match because she was kind of a relevant character in this as well.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see Michelle McCool in that match, personally. It would have been interesting. Yeah. It would have been like, I actually revised my point now that I think about it. But speaking about Edge and Orton, when Edge returned in the Royal Rumble, and it's going to lead us into what I thought was the worst match on the card, is I actually wanted to see RKO return. I didn't really get the Edge versus Orton story. I thought it would have been much cooler to see RKO return and challenge for the tag team. The tag division is a nightmare right now in WWE. I think that would have been way cooler, and then have this match take place at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people wanted the same thing, you know. I don't know how other fans would see it, but I mean, the nostalgia of just having Edge and Orton in the same ring at the same time, you never thought would happen again. But then, if you look at the content that they put out leading up to Mania, it was the best thing going.
I agree, but my thing is that the tag team division, because the Street Profits versus Austin Theory and Angel Garza with Vega, that's rough, and it's nothing against Austin Theory or even Angel Garza. It's nothing against the Street Profits either. They're enjoyable, but I felt no hype during that match. I actually muted that match, and I wound up eating my dessert during that match. And I had, you know, some cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory, and the match was over pretty quickly. I didn't think there was anything there. I didn't think there was anything leading up to it. I mean, from my understanding, Paul Heyman put Austin Theory in that match because he sees something in him, which means he'll be buried in a month. But that's why I say what I say, because the tag team needs some lightning around, and also the Street Profits need some verification under their belt to some degree.
I agree with you. I think the problem you've got is because Heyman was obviously in charge of Evolve, Austin Theory was like the top guy. And from what I know, that Heyman's pushing Theory like he pushed Punk. And we all know what Vince is like. If people are pushed too much to him, he's just, that's it, he's done. Austin Theory's had the odd match on NXT, and then straight away he's on Raw, and next minute he's on Mania. I would have liked to have seen them maybe put the Undisputed Era in there, as a surprise tag match. You could have used the Revival. There was no need. I mean, the thing is, Garza and Theory are tag wrestlers, so how can you believe that they're a tag team? The only thing that connects them is Zelina Vega. That is it.
I mean, look, if you had CN, Andre CN, in there, then you might have had something. But
yeah, I agree.
But he's the United States champion. Why would he be in a tag match if he's the U.S. champ at the same time? It doesn't make sense from a psychology standpoint, in my opinion, at least.
No, but then you had Seth Rollins as the Intercontinental Champion and the tag champion. It's the same thing.
But even that was rough, and even that was not a good play. And WWE took that; they realized how quickly what a bad idea that was.
Yeah, but then the thing, like you just hit the nail on the head. It's an idea. that
yes.
Unfortunately, well, the thing is, unfortunately, the best idea they had for Mania for the tag title match was Angel Garza and Austin Theory. That was their best idea. So imagine what their worst were.
Yeah, but also they didn't mess up on the SmackDown side, because that ladder match was amazing, and they turned. If that was a tag match, that thing would have been even more amazing. The fact that it was for the tag titles on a ladder with only 3 of the competitors made that match even better because it was less chaotic.
Yes, it was. There was less room for accidents. I've been in ladder matches myself, and if there's too many people, there's like too many cooks in the kitchen, everything just gets lost. And to see Morrison, Uso, and Kofi, it was great. I think the match was fantastic. It just shows you how different Mania this year was to last year, because obviously Kofi won the title at Mania 35. So now he's competing in a ladder match for the tag titles, which is cool. But the match itself was really well put out.
Yeah, and I agree about that thing. Too many cooks in the kitchen, because the last big ladder match John Morrison was in was as Johnny Nitro, and it was a fatal 4-way ladder match, and there were some nasty things that happened in that match, in particular to Joey Mercury. And
that's when that hit him in the face. Yeah.
And obviously that led to a lot of Joey Mercury later down and a lot of other stuff. So just throwing that out there, that's not saying WWE was avoiding that, but clearly there are problems with ladder matches in WWE, and there's a long history of problems with them.
Yeah, but then if you put that out, if you promote that and book that, then you've got to be aware that there will be consequences, or there might be injuries.
And now we're going to table Mania there, because I think we covered a lot of it and the highlights for the most part. But obviously, and I want to bring this back now to the point where we're in the middle of COVID-19. A lot of wrestling schools are suffering. A lot of wrestlers are not working or not training and dealing with mental health issues. How can people support their local wrestlers and their local wrestling schools and really give them things that they need at the moment, not necessarily in money, but even social media, or even money to throw it out there.
If you know any wrestlers out there that suffer from mental health, just send them a text. Say, hey, how you doing? Ask them. A lot of people may not open up, but for me and my trainees, I'm an outlet. They have my email. They can ring me direct. Guys that are on the main circuit, I know that suffer. I've said to those guys, if you need help, give me a call. You have to be an outlet. I think it's really hard for someone who doesn't suffer to then try to understand someone who does. So if you're just a good listener and try and understand where they're coming from, money-wise, there's a lot of GoFundMe pages out there for all the academies. If you're going to donate to the ones that you know of, you've heard of. Don't just donate to ones that you've never heard of, because sometimes, unfortunately, the people that set the GoFundMe use the money for different reasons. So if it's like a credit spot, like House of Pain, I'm just going to use as an example, or the PCW Academy, they're two really good academies in the UK. So you know that the money's going to the academy, to the students. We set up one for the barracks. The money's there to help our students, if they're struggling with rent or a bill. We've got, I think we raised 570 quid. So we can obviously pay our rent, but we've still got a little bit left over to help our guys as well.
And even to go beyond the money component, a lot of support, and I've been saying this with other wrestlers as well as voice actors and comic writers, is a lot of support that even sometimes goes beyond money is social media support. And so I'm curious what your social media is and how people can support you as well as other wrestling schools that you know of. Because there's no excuse now not to give somebody a follow on Twitter, or Facebook, or follow their Instagram, because that stuff is free.
It's free. It all comes down to if people can be bothered to follow and just click that like button or click that follow button. I think it's easier said than done. A lot of people, it's hard because in the UK with the guys and girls in wrestling are quite close. And you get fans will message you and say, oh, how are you doing? And they're asking because they're concerned, and that's great, but you've got to be careful of how you approach different situations and different kind of mental health issues, because not everyone's the same. Some people might suffer with severe depression. Some people may not have that, and they may have anxiety. It's like I've got one guy who has social anxiety. So for him to do wrestling is huge, because he's kind of being the polar opposite to himself. It is just a case of, if you know somebody out there in the wrestling business, or just in general, who has a mental health issue, get in touch. Just speak to them. We've got no reason to not now. We can't go out. I mean, obviously in the UK, we can't go out. We're on lockdown. Take this time now to talk to people who may not be taking it the way you've kind of adjusted to it.
And then what is your social media so people can follow you and support you during this time?
Well, obviously we spoke about the WWE situation. So on Facebook, it's just under wrestler at the moment, because I've yet to have anything kind of confirmed for the new kind of rebirth of Burchill. So yeah, it's literally just under wrestler, and the little icon is like in the wrestling ring, because that's what I am. I'm a wrestler. On Twitter, I'm at ProSportsEd, and I am on Instagram, but I can't remember what it is because I'm not really that good at it. I think I don't really know what it is.
You'll put the Instagram link in your Twitter.
Yeah, it's something like that. I don't know. I'm not very good. You know what I mean? Like I'm getting on, and it's like I've just discovered TikTok. Like what? Like
I'm very bad. I'm very bad at TikTok. I don't get TikTok. I look at Shaza McKenzie on TikTok. I look at Mandy Rose and Lana, and that's it. That's all I do on TikTok. And It's great. It's great to look at it, but I don't get it as it's not a content tool I want to use. It's a content tool I want to consume.
I just feel like everyone's just doing dances, and I'm not a dancer. I need like a fair few beers down me to start dancing, not just put on a 15-second skit and make sure we get likes and follows.
It's not for me. It's a consumption tool for me. It's not a creation.
It's an outlet. That's why Facebook and Instagram and Twitter is such a good outlet for wrestlers, because it's free.
It's great for a lot of people. It's great for me because it's a content tool, and it's a great way to reach out to people, and a lot of fun stuff can be done on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. Love Snapchat. Not good at Snapchat, but love Snapchat. That's great. But I am thankful that you were on here, because clearly the entire point, I always end this way, and I want to make it clear, but the entire point of doing these videos and these interviews is I've interviewed a lot of people in the last 5 years. Some people have been returning. A bunch of people are new on my brand expansion. And given the fact that we are in a situation right now as people, and in particular the wrestling community, where all these promotions are being shut down. There's a promotion in DC that isn't putting on a show till July. And even that is not going to happen. I'm willing to put money on it. And I want to go to their show, and I'm a season ticket holder. So I have a vested interest, because they're not going to be able to make up that money to return to people. But anyhow, one of the things is that people do need to support wrestling, and they need to support comic book writers and artists and the con world. That's the sector that we're in, is the live entertainment sector. And so people seriously go follow Chris, who is formerly known as Burchill, and we'll have a new name sooner rather than later, hopefully. Fingers crossed, everybody. Fingers crossed, So please go support him. Go support him on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, when he puts his Instagram link up on Twitter, which hopefully he will do in the next day or two, so that you can actually go follow him on Instagram, as well as support other people in the wrestling world, because everybody needs your support. And if you have money, obviously go support him that way. If you don't, because times are tough, following is free. And there's no excuses, because that's the best way how to stay up to date with everybody, as well as give your support in the cheapest manner possible.